Do you think the government is being honest with us about what they know?
Government is doing what the government does. They are not being forthcoming. They're lying to the American people about these drones over New Jersey.
Welcome in, OutKick the show, special X-Files edition, UFO edition. Congresswoman Nancy Mace is with us right now from the great state of South Carolina. And Congresswoman, you've been diving into the UFO-related controversies, and I can't wait to ask you a bunch of questions about that. But this kind of ties in. We're taping this on Monday, so who knows what might happen tonight. But all these drone sightings, New York, New Jersey, all over the East Coast. What's your theory on what's going on? Do you think the government's being honest with us? Do you think there's something here? Again, Monday afternoon, we haven't yet seen what might happen on Monday evening, but what's your take here?
And I've been getting reports for the last couple of days for folks that have seen drones over South Carolina as well. So it's interesting. No, I don't trust the government. I don't believe that they are telling the truth about this. And in fact, Donald Trump said today that the government, is specifically the Department of Defense, is hiding information from the American people. And at the very minimum, at the very least, Congress should get a brief on this so that we know that the DOD knows what's actually going on here. And so there are a lot of different reasons for national security purposes why this is, really a pressing thing that Congress ought to have answers for the American people.
All right, let's dive in. I'm obsessed, and I have been for my whole life, with the idea of extraterrestrial life, aliens, UFOs, objects in the air that we don't know and can't explain how they got there.
Yep.
You had a recent hearing on these. There have been a lot of videos that have gone viral associated with our military. Let's just start right here. Based on everything that you have seen, do you think that there are UFOs that have visited the United States? What's your explanation? Visited our world? What's going on here?
I'm going to have to see an alien body on a gurney. But with David Grush's testimony last year, he said that we have retrieved the bodies of the pilots that piloted these craft. These non-human biologics is what he called them. I will tell you. So I had the hearing a couple weeks ago in November about UAPs and USOs. USOs are the ones that go underwater. And we had a classified briefing the end of last week with AARO, that's doing different investigations of UAPs and trying to find an answer and information on them. But there are some that are unexplained, and there are two very specific shapes, and I won't say what shapes they are, that are consistently unidentifiable. They don't know what they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they're coming from. But they're two very distinct, very distinguished shapes that over and over again, when they see that on radar or in any platform that they found some of this footage, some of it's been leaked, some of it's still classified, but they have two very, very distinct and specific shapes that are consistently unexplained. And I find that interesting and fascinating.
So, do you think the government is being honest with us about what they know? Question one. Second part
absolutely
of that.
not.
Okay, so let's start there. Why do you think they're not being honest?
Well, we've seen over the years, actually over decades, where someone will come forward and say, hey, I saw this in a classified setting. We've got beings. We're doing reverse engineering on some of the technology that's come from outer space. And what the government will say is this person was never at that site. In the case of Bob Lazar, there's actually a manifest when the government denied that he existed, denied that he was on site at some special site looking at reverse engineered craft. Turns out that the guy's name was on a manifest as an employee at this site. Look at David Grush. He testified last year about what he saw. And of course, the government was saying he's not a credible witness. So what do they do after the witness testified? They leaked embarrassing medical records. They violated his medical privacy. They violated HIPAA to smear this witness. So if there's no there, then why go to extraordinary lengths to threaten whistleblowers, to harm people that come forward and discredit them when they do come forward? If it's all bullshit and noise, then why such a great effort by the government to discredit its own people? It doesn't add up for me.
So what do you think's going on? Like, one of the challenges is everybody's acting on incomplete information. You've got
Right.
better information than I do, and
Right.
most of the people that are listening or watching to us right now. If I said, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, like, based on the information that you've seen, what's a reasonable hypothesis about what's going on? What would your answer be?
Oh, it's hard because I've seen some videos like the jellyfish video that has been debunked by the government, and I bought their explanation, basically a series of balloons, so to speak, in that scenario. But my issue is that when we have pilots like jet pilots, fighter pilots, when they're seeing specifically these two shapes in the air, they can't explain it. And so my concern is if it's not craft from outer space, because I think that has to be on the table, that has to be an option. Is it our technology, or is it Russia or Iran or China? Is there someone who's winning the arms race, and are we behind? Because my question is about national security. And I hope that it's us. I hope that it's not our adversaries or something from outside the universe, because I have real concerns that, like, if these drones are from Iran or China, like some of the rumors have been, I pray that they're ours, but we should also know why they're out there. Like, are they looking for radiation? Are they looking for a missing nuclear warhead? Like, we deserve to have some answers here because people are scared. And a lot of congressional offices are hearing people, they're writing in with their concerns when they're seeing these drones. And quite frankly, I mean, Congress needs answers, and the DOD, the Pentagon, needs to come and tell us the truth.
At what point does it make sense for the government not to tell the truth? Is there any point that it would make sense? Like, you mentioned somebody comes and testifies, hey, we've recovered alien, basically bodies from inside. There's an argument out there that maybe we've seen some of these aircraft and we can't explain them. And to your point, as you mentioned, we're trying to reverse engineer the way in which they were built, and it may be way in advance of our technologies and everything else.
Right.
What's the government's obligation to be honest with us about these things in your mind?
Well, they lied to us about COVID. If they lie to us about COVID, they'll lie to us about anything. And they have this overclassification issue where they don't share information. But, they do need, I'm okay with not disclosing everything. Some information should remain classified. But like the date when an incident happened or a location, like those kinds of things shouldn't be really that classified. I think you can share information, but also I want to see the government disclose some of the leaked videos and images that are explained. And I would like the government to tell the American people, this is what this really was. And this is how we deduce what it actually is based on radar, sonar, infrared technology, et cetera, because people will run wild with conspiracy theories when the government is silent. I mean, they just run rampant. But we should focus on the things that are unexplained. And if the government can at least disclose some of that information, hey, this was a video that was leaked and it's a spy balloon, it's not actual UFO or UAP. I think that goes a long way to instilling trust. But the government is doing what the government does. They are not being forthcoming. They're lying to the American people about these drones over New Jersey. So how can we ever trust them? And right now, they are not giving the American people any reason to. So I don't believe anything they say right now.
How much do you think? I know you know the president well. I've talked to him some about this. I think he's been asked about it. How much do you think he cares about this particular subject, that is some sort of phenomenon, potentially an unidentified flying object, so to speak? How much do you think he cares about this, and how much does who the president is impact what we're able to learn or be told about this?
I can't speak on his behalf, but I know that publicly he has stated he's been briefed on some of these things, and he calls it interesting. And I think it does matter who's president. It also matters who he appoints and who the nominees are to disclose some of this, because I think that his nominees are going to be much more pro-disclosure than other nominees or appointments in the past. I think who he's nominated also matters. I mean, can you imagine Kash Patel at the head of the FBI? They investigated him, but the kinds of things the kinds of people he's bringing into the administration, some of them are disruptors, and that's what it should be. But we should be careful with disclosure. But the American people should know more than what they know today. I mean, I had a hearing a couple of weeks ago, and one of our witnesses wouldn't even disclose a date of a UAP that was well documented, because I want to go look at satellite imagery and see what was there. But people are afraid because it's classified. the amount of money that the government spends on reverse engineering programs or UAP programs to find UAPs or figure out what they are and explain them, that number, I know that number, but I can't tell you because it's classified. So we have this over classification of information that really isn't relevant to the findings of that video or that unknown thing in the sky or underwater. And I want whistleblowers to feel safe. I want whistleblowers to know that they're not going to have a stigma when they come forward. We need more of them to come forward to find out what's going on. And my concern with the presidency is that, are these agencies or the people that are the head of these programs, if any of them are private contractors, for example, that's how we believe the government is skirting the Constitution and the law, but are they really briefing the president? Are they really briefing people at the highest level of our national security apparatus? Who's getting briefed? What's the strategy? And are they hiding anything from the White House? I think that's a very fair question that should be answered.
How do you respond? Because I get this question. I believe, so everybody knows, I think, but I believe that we've probably been visited by alien intelligence at some point in time. I believe in life off of Earth and elsewhere in the galaxy. People can agree or disagree with me on that, but that's my response. When I give that opinion, one of the responses I get is, isn't it kind of crazy to think that a superior alien life force would visit Earth and that their ships would crash here and be unable to get back? That's, I don't think, a crazy argument for somebody to make. Do you think that there have been alien spacecraft that have crashed here that the government has knowledge of? If you were asked that question in a deposition, you had to raise your right hand and you just had to give your opinion, do you think that's happened?
I don't have concrete answers because I've not actually seen the crash craft. I've not seen the bodies, but I will tell you, given the size of the universe, the number of planets and systems that are out there and galaxies that are out there, the odds are in your favor. And we've seen evidence of life in other planets, very, very small, microbiomes, that kind of thing, very, very small life, cell forms. But the odds of it being out there are greater than they're not. And the question is, are we being visited or are we not? Now, the interesting thing that I learned at my last hearing is that we pay some people for injuries they've incurred due to crash retrieval programs. Now, why would that be? So, there's so many, like, if there's no program, if there's no reverse engineering program, if there's no crash craft, why are we paying people for their medical injuries by being exposed to whatever it is they're exposed to physically that injures them at a crash site? That part to me is, it's unexplainable and just gives credence to some of the theories that are out there.
One of the things that I've seen that I think is super fascinating is the idea of, as you mentioned, trying to reverse engineer these aircraft, but in the context that we might be hundreds or thousands of years, maybe millions of years behind the technology. And so do we even have the tools to even comprehend how something from an alien life force would be built, right? It's almost like until we found Hammurabi's code back in the day, we didn't have an ability to translate all the hieroglyphics and those were things that happened in our world. We lost the ability to understand what we had known in the past. Do you think there's even an ability, even the smartest engineers, we got Elon Musk looking at these creations, that in some context we may be so far behind that we can't even figure out what in the world they've done to build the craft as they have?
Yeah, do we have the brain power and the capacity to really understand it? Who knows? Because I don't know what the technology is or if it exists. And, but we've had people come forward that the government has discredited and said, this program doesn't exist. And what do you know? The program existed. And so we've been lied to over and over again by the government. And there's no reason, they've given us no reason to trust them on any of this.
So what should happen next in your mind? Let's pretend that you were given a magic wand, that you were made. This would be an amazing job, right? The czar of alien phenomena on Earth. You're basically like Mulder and Scully rolled in together, X-Files. You get to investigate. You get a budget that you need. What should happen in your mind in this situation?
I would want to disclose information in a way that rebuilds trust with Congress, rebuilds trust with government agencies, and rebuilds trust with the American people. And that would be a series of disclosures of things that are unexplained, a series of disclosures that show what is explained and how they got to it, and then come clean about programs that they maybe have shut down that were once that once existed, things that are 75 years old, 50 years old. I think that I'd be a hard sell to understand why they would need to continue to be classified. That would go a long way to rebuilding trust. And then some kind of program where just ordinary citizens can report things that they see, particularly as it comes to these two specific shaped objects. So when they see them in the skies, having some kind of apparatus where people can report it and share their footage with the government so it can go into a vault or into an archive, that can maybe help explain things in the future or explain things in the past, or go into the unexplained file as they figure out what the heck this is. Because there are always going to be things that are unexplained. And the government told us in our skip that there are things they cannot explain, but they wouldn't go into detail. And in terms of the way that they classify things, if you don't know the magic password, the special code name for the program, they won't answer your questions. And disclosure, a little bit of disclosure would go a long way to this.
When's the next hearing, or when's the next step for people out there like me who are fascinated by this and are curious where we go from here?
Well, there's not a next scheduled hearing for the next Congress. We start the new Congress on January 3rd. I'll be looking to the administration to get some guidance on, with the new appointments that they have and directors, which way we can go. I'm advocating for disclosure, particularly for the unexplained, to folks who are being appointed, because I think it's really important to share at least some of that information, declassify some of it, so that we all know what's going on and how much money, if it doesn't exist, why are we spending the amount of money we are on these programs? And the American people have a right to know how much of their money is being invested.
Spending? I know you said it was classified how much we're spending, but is it $1 billion or more? I mean, is it like, what kind of dollar figure are we talking about that is in the universe of the budget?
Aero alone, just that one agency, it's significant. And so when you think about all the programs across multiple agencies, it's going to be a high number. I'm not going to say it's $1 billion. I don't know if it's that high, but it's a lot.
What else should we know? What am I not smart enough to ask you that if you were listening to us, you wish that I had asked you, or you think that the audience should know?
No, I think you've done a great job of it. I think we need to push our leadership, push the president, and push these directors of the agencies that are coming in for more disclosure. I'm doing that kind of advocacy already, but it's up to all of us to put pressure, because we've shown on social media, when we put pressure on leadership, they change. It matters.
What do you think the chances are that alien life forms would be able to tell the difference between men and women?
Certainly, they probably know which bathroom to use, if they use one at all. But yeah.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, we appreciate the time. Thank you for reaching out. This is fascinating to me. I know our audience is going to love it as well. And we'll talk to you again soon when you get more info.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.